Okay. Just a few housekeeping things. Zach is running a few minutes late, so we will note in the meeting minutes when he arrives. Nate is attending via webcam, so any motions need to be roll call votes.
And you actually need to make a motion to allow him to participate.
Yeah.
All right.
Make a motion to allow Nate to participate.
Okay. We can start roll call now.
Okay, I'm in favor.
Okay.
Nate, are you in favor of that? Okay, thumbs up. Aye.
Aye. All right. Nate is allowed. I don't think his vote actually counts, but.
It does,
Yes.
You
Oh,
do,
it does?
yep, if you allow him to do that, yeah.
All right, cool. Nate is in. Can Nate hear us?
You can hear, right?
Can he talk to us?
I don't think so.
He can unmute.
He might not want
You
to.
can unmute yourself, right? You need to talk.
So you'll have to unmute him. I think if you hover over his name, there's a little microphone with a, should be a line through it. Yeah.
Request unmute.
So maybe Nate should mute himself on his side.
All right, thank you. So I'll mute myself here, and then when necessary, I'll jump in.
All right, perfect.
Perfect, thanks Nate.
Thank you.
All right, first order of business is pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we are approving minutes for June 6th, June 21st, and the non-public for June 21st. Does anyone want to tackle any of those first? Can we do a bulk motion?
Yep.
Okay. So I will make a motion to approve all three sets of minutes. Anyone? Okay, and discussion. Anyone have anything they'd like to change? Zach has entered at 6:05.
Here I am.
Kristen's not here. There's an agenda. Sorry, she didn't leave me back here.
We're in discussion about the minutes. Does anyone have anything to add about any of the minutes or any discussion you'd like to have? No? Or Zach, do you need a minute?
I will abstain on the minutes just because I talked late.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, we will vote. Nate?
He's on the computer. Let's see what
Not you.
you do. So I
Aye.
Aye, all right. Ellen?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Aye. And
1%.
one abstention. All right. So we'll move on to immediate business. First up is public comments.
Kevin Verbo, McCarran Road. I'm going to remind you guys, none of you has a mandate. None of you were elected with a majority vote of people that voted. You won by plurality, less than 50%. The mandate is school choice. That's what the town voted for. So we're in catch-22, means you can't win from losing. So you refused to consider top-off agreements because you were afraid of potential litigation. So then the legislature passes a law to clarify and codify top-off agreements. And then I hear debate amongst the board that you're still not comfortable moving forward with that for some unknown reason. So you wouldn't do it because there was no law that specifically allowed you. And now you've got members that don't seem interested because you're upset that it required a law to allow it. So my request is that if you don't want to do top-off agreements, just come clean and say, I don't support top-off agreements and I'm not going to vote in favor of them. Let the voters know where you stand, right? The reason we passed that law is because of people like you that said we're not going to consider top-off agreements because we're afraid of potential litigation. So we took that risk out of your purview, did you a favor. So the next one is paralysis by analysis or bad faith, right? And I'm going to start with the bad faith. Lottery? You guys are discussing a lottery? The one third rail of public education in Deerfield is high school lotteries. And you guys are like, we could do it by lottery. So yeah, we did it. We did it in the way that you found the least palatable and the most offensive to the vast majority of people. Really, I mean, for me, it's beyond the pale. The paralysis by analysis is you guys, it seems to me like you're trying to find the most difficult, convoluted solution to this problem that you can, right? The solution's easy. Do your contract with Concord. You love Concord. Do a contract with Concord. Just don't have any minimum attendance of the Deerfield population. Then pass a top-off policy for the district and allow families to send their students wherever they'd like to send their students up to whatever amount you set for the top-off policy. That's fiscally neutral for the taxpayer. It's almost a top-off agreement set at whatever your contract amount is the same amount of money for everybody. And if we're gonna hide behind special ed, that all gets billed for exact cost, whether it goes to Concord or Co-Brown or anywhere. And if you're going to deny people choice because you want to save money in special ed, it's disingenuous, right? Pass a top-off policy, let families send your kids. Fiscally neutral.
Thanks,
Just a couple last things, please.
Well, it's been 3 minutes and our policy is 3 minutes. So
Wow.
there is another public comment at the end.
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little long. It's I've been watching your meetings and you let people run long and you don't like the messages, so you're hard on the 3 minutes. And that's fine. I think you guys get my point. People are paying attention. There's a lot of people saying they're going to vote no on everything until they get school choice. I'm hearing that in all different corners of this town. You guys are playing with fire. You should just do what the voters have asked you to do and make life easy and happy for everyone. Thank you.
Kimberly Black, Meeting House Hill. It was hard watching the last meeting as a family of alumni from Co-Brown. I understand that you guys may not feel that you are warm and fuzzy school, but I think it's a very valid option for many. Actually, the majority of towns, based on the surveys you guys have sent out and based on the people that have voted that they want to see multiple options. In my Visions magazine that I get, it was ironic in reading through the top 10 that in the top 10 students at Co-Brown, one of them was a Concord family, as listed right here. So Concord families also choose Co-Brown. However, they may have done it, I'm not going to surmise, but there's a Concord student, a Concord family from Co-Brown. And I think we need to take very careful consideration of the fact that Concord may not even be for Concord students. With that in mind, I just want to make a comment about the expansion. It's very hard looking at that, watching what has passed for years, which is the minimum. It has been, we need 2 rooms for a kindergarten, a part-time kindergarten. We get 2 rooms for a part-time kindergarten. The following year, they put in the cafeteria, 3 rooms and 2 over that, which was literally the bare minimum of what they need. Nothing more is ever going to pass than the bare minimum of what this needs. So take out the meeting spaces, take out the special ed spaces, do something for at least 4 classrooms, guys. Nothing else is going to pass in this town. And I think if you keep trying to just put in a little more pizzazz into that, the town's just not going to listen at all. And they're already not listening to what the staff need. So let's make sure we get what the students need, which is 4 more classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Whitmore, North Road. So I got a copy of the oath of office that's used by elected officials in Deerfield, and I wanted to read an excerpt from it. So I state your name, do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon me. And it's the term impartially that really catches my attention. So the school board's given a clear directive by the town to implement high school options. And I don't feel that the school board is pursuing this task in an impartial manner. And I say this because of my experience at the last school board meeting, where I was subjected to a 45-minute discussion by the school board, which made clear their bias against Co-Brown. And curiously, why was this even a topic of discussion? Because the town made it clear in multiple surveys that Co-Brown is the favored school. So why was this discussion necessary? It certainly did not imbue confidence in me that negotiations were being conducted in an impartial manner. When asked when the next round of negotiations would occur, we were informed that the meetings were not even scheduled. So the concern of many is that the school board will claim they do not have enough time and will cram into place some sort of short-term exclusive contracts with only Concord High School, be it 1 year or 3 year extensions. So what I'm asking is for you to focus your efforts on high school options. Give us what we voted for. You're now gearing up for a renewed push for DCS expansion. That was handily voted down. The town is clearly focused on high school options. Focus on that, secure it, then shift your efforts back to DCS expansion. Thank you.
Nancy Shute, Pleasant Hill Road. It's amazing to me that we can sit at meetings and hear totally different things. I heard that people wanted to understand the special ed differences between Concord and Co-Brown, and if you could with the costs related, you did that. And then we hear, oh, well, the school board is saying private schools don't provide special ed. That was, I don't know, maybe I missed that meeting when you said that, but it wasn't said at that particular meeting. And we did say that if a family chooses to go to a private school, then the school is no longer. But I feel like the school board did do what people asked. And I keep hearing that the school board isn't going to offer choice. I don't believe that. I'm not hearing that. I think you are going to offer choice. You did have acknowledged that, yes, that is what was voted for. It's not something that can happen immediately when you're negotiating, in my opinion, with different towns. It takes time to negotiate. I heard you say that you are looking for a short-term solution so that you can bring it to, you can make sure that the students are able to start selecting courses when they're supposed to, when they need to, that you have something in place that they can go to. And you also want to bring it to the community, because I heard you say you're concerned about all of a sudden having that amount of money added to the budget, or a possibility of that amount of money added to the budget without the community knowing it. So again, I know, I guess I'm one of the few that come and say, thank you. I do feel that you're trying to do what's best for the students and for the community as a whole. And we are a community. And I am so frustrated when I keep saying, this is a fight. You need to go out and fight for it. It shouldn't be a fight. I do believe we're all here looking for what's best for the students and the community. So again, I thank you.
Other public comments?
Can I say something real quick?
You can be a member of the public if you'd like to make a comment.
It's more of just kind of an observation, just adding something. So I think it's important for everybody to remember that the only opportunity we have to communicate and root out ideas and have discussions and root through our thoughts is in these meetings. We can't sit down somewhere afterwards and have a meeting and discuss this stuff. So when you see us having conversations in these meetings and we're going and we're figuring things out, we're rooting out what we're trying to solve. It's disheartening when those conversations get turned into something that isn't necessarily what it is, other than us as an elected body having a conversation trying to figure out an issue. That, face it, So I would hope that as people hear boards, not just this board, but any board, have these conversations that they have to have in public, that they'd be understanding that that's the process. We have to have these conversations and we have to have agreements as a board, disagreements as a board, and we have to come together. Maybe we come together unanimously on something, maybe we do, maybe we don't. But until we can have these conversations, we can't do anything. So I think it's important to try to be understanding that this is the process, and as much as sometimes you may not hear what you want to hear in those conversations, for us to have an exchange of ideas, we have to communicate with each other, we have to do it in this way.
Yeah, you didn't go over your 3 minutes, I guess.
Kimberly Black, Meeting House Hill, just to follow up with that, Zach, it's really hard to cram in everything you guys talk about in 3 minute short and sweet conversation that I would much rather have over a coffee and a beer. So I understand that I come up to this table very short because I need to get a very clear point across to you guys. And it's not personal at you, but it's all very personal to me. So don't take it personal, but know that it is.
Thank you. Patty, it's not showing the picture of the room. Is that a problem? The back camera, you mean? People will still be able to hear us. There won't be video. I'm not. Did you shut off the video?
I haven't touched it. I know the meeting's going on. Nate, he's still. Nate, can you see the room through the camera?
Hey, what was that?
Can you see the room through the camera?
No, the camera's off. I can't see the room. But I'm the only one on screen now, so that's okay. We can keep it that way if you want. Oh yeah, the screen is back up.
Stopped the video and then restarted the video. Did it stop? You didn't stop.
I didn't. Okay. Oh, so you stopped the video and started it again?
You're good. Perfect.
Okay. Sorry.
No
No,
worries,
that's
thank you.
okay. Little technical difficulties with the camera, so apologies for that. We're gonna move on to an agenda review. We have quite a lengthy agenda tonight. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to add to the business portion? Are there any consent items? No. Okay. I am going to, see where we're at time-wise with the policies. I don't want to rush through the policies, but I do realize that there are some that we probably want to pass sooner than later. So some of these we may put on another meeting if it's running too late.
I have a small comment for each one that might
Okay.
help us.
Perfect. Okay, anything else that anyone wants to discuss about the agenda? All right. Next item is 23-24 bus routes.
Welcome, thank you.
All right, I realized you just got them this morning. The ones that I sent you are on the same plan that we had at the end of last year. But we just found out today, we confirmed that we do have 5 drivers to the morning and 5 that have to do at least to get started. So we will not have to have any doubles in the afternoons.
No doubles, did you say?
No doubles in the afternoon, and we can still cover our PM Concord High School. We do have more in training, so should get better as we go.
So that changes the routes that you gave this afternoon, so we can
Right.
put new ones in.
Right, so
I didn't review those yet, we've calculations for James Road being closed.
Range Road, not yet, but the bridge,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
The
Bridge Road,
107,
bridge.
yeah, the 107 bridge,
Both are closed.
yeah. 107 bridge isn't as actually as big a deal as it could be, so it's okay. The high school bus can go down as far as Old Center, and the kids from the bridge to there can catch the bus there. And then it will go around Old Center onto Meeting House, take a left, go back to Parade, stop at the bottom of the parade, so the kids from that side of the bridge over there can catch the bus there. continue on as normal. The other bus will just do the utility a little bit earlier to get started. Purple bus is the other one affected for elementary. So they'll do something similar. They'll go to school center, start from there. So anybody's sitting there will come up to meet them. They'll go on the route they normally do. The only kids we won't be able to get to are the kids from the bridge to Penguin, which is Reasons Pond, and then a couple of houses, and a lot of them don't ride in the morning, but we do more in the afternoon. So that won't be as bad as we thought. Range Road, I've got to refigure because we use it for a couple of routes that go through there, crisscross. So that's another thing. I haven't heard how long, so.
And it's gonna be a little bit. And then at some point, Haynes Road's gonna get knocked out of order for.
Yeah, a lot of towns are going through that right now.
October-ish.
Okay, yeah, we've been going for either end of Haynes, because there's only a couple of students, only one has been riding. So at least that wouldn't impact a lot. There's a little bit more on Ridge and Range, there's a few families. So we'll have to figure out something there where they may have to do the same thing, maybe set one to the other as far as you can get. So these show the current stops and everything in families as far as we know right now. Most of these are going to be pretty much what you have in the morning will be the afternoon. You basically need to look at counts just to make sure in case we have to swing a few stops to another bus, just to make sure everybody gets to go home as well. But it shouldn't be hard. We won't have any kids at school. Yay. So Concord High School routes are there as well. They are not different from last year. I've been a bad stop for a new family at the end of a road. They both do start as they have since the middle of the pandemic on one starts on 107 side of town and one starts over towards the Raymond side of town, and they head towards South Road. That enables us to, if we have, as they're getting towards the end of their routes, if one needs help because they have too many students and they need the bus to grab the stops, they can. If the numbers get down enough, low enough, it also gives the option, should their driver be out and don't have a spare, they can have those kids get onto the other bus, that will continue on, and that will come right back to Deerfield help the situation to get the other kids to school. Not what we plan to do, but it's an option if we get to that point of ridership. So, questions?
My only question, I don't know if you've looked at this, we've gotten a few emails requesting like switching the routes. So like the Concord kids who got picked up first get flipped to get picked up last.
So the ones that get picked up first on the 107 side get off first.
Okay,
So
but they'll still get picked up first.
they get picked up first, but they get off first. And that also is because they're both going to that side of town. They help each other if they need to. The other one comes back to that side, to the Bearbrick side, because that's where the bulk of the kids are. So it makes more sense to start there.
Got it.
Just like the other one has the bulk of its kids on the 107 side. So that's why they go straight back to there, to drop off there. It's going to get off first.
And then someone raised an idea about having sort of a last stop that was like sort of a group stop. So like if there was a child at the front end of the pickup who didn't want to get on the bus that early, their parent could bring them to another stop. As sort of the last stop.
Yeah.
Have we explored any of
Once we
Something
know
like
what
that.
the counts are,
Okay.
because when we begin the year, you have to take the bus you're assigned to, because we need to make sure there's space for you on the bus that covers your side of town. Once we get to see what those numbers are, then we can look at that, and then
Okay.
we do offer that. That's completely available if they want to go to the other side. So and that's been offered in the past as well.
Okay, got it.
So
And are you thinking we will be able to pick up 6 bus elementary?
I'm very hopeful. We've got people in the works, but we're trying to get people through. So it's just, we were hoping we'd be ready quicker, but not quite there, so, yeah, we did fine. We actually have a training issue, which is exciting.
Sounds great. So if we have changes, could we have them for the meeting in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm gonna get to work on the 5 to make sure those are set to go, and then we'll go from there.
So we're not approving these because either 5 or 4.
You do. It's up to the board if you want to preliminarily approve them knowing there's changes coming, or if you want to just hold off until we have the set. It would be confusing, I think, to people to publish these.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't.
If you approve them, people are going to ask for them, so
Right.
it would be better to hold off.
Can we approve them for 5 and 5? So once the work is done, publish them. Or do- Yeah, I think the earlier you get it out, I suspect you already kind of know how the 5 and 5 is going to work.
Yeah.
So do you want to, you're saying approve them tonight, and that way when Kelly fixes the 5 and 5, they can just go out?
You can publish it.
Okay.
So I make a motion
If you're
to approve the bus routes, 5 and 5. Plus high school.
I'll second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zach. So are you saying that you're approving the 5 and 5? You're not approving these? Is that what the motion is? So we wouldn't be sending these out now. We would be sending them out once the 5 has been.
Yeah, so once Kelly updates the afternoon runs for the 5 PM runs, she can go over the, get it out, so we don't have to wait 2 weeks to publish it. It's 2 weeks puts us up fairly close to the start of school. Well, puts us basically the house of school. I don't know, I'm talking. So.
Yeah.
I just realized that. I'm looking at you on the screen. You can tell I didn't do much.
Is there any other discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Roll call.
Nate?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for coming and for all of your hard work. Having fun, Kelly?
This was the most pleasant visit we've had in like 6 or 7 years.
All right.
It's exciting.
Thank you for coming. And there are no agenda items? Okay. Review of correspondence. So unfortunately, we don't have the printed packet as our lovely admin staff are not here to print it for us.
I didn't even think to do it in their absence.
There are approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Twelve emails that are currently in the drive. I can go through and read off who sent us emails and then see if there's something that people wanted to talk about or respond to, or we can sort of just publish them all with the minutes. What say you?
I'm okay with attaching to the minutes.
Okay. So we will not go through every correspondence that we have received, but we will attach them all to the meeting minutes. For those interested to peruse. Facility updates. Zach, I understand that you are providing the
Yeah.
facility updates tonight.
So, the 3 big projects that are going on, we'll kind of talk about them already. The fire alarm devices, most part, all been installed. They're currently addressing them into the panel. That process will take maybe another week, week and a half, and then we can start the testing. Have everything back up. So that project's going well. The roof, they are, from what Chris has told me, about 2/3 done, and he's estimating there's another 8 to 2 weeks left. Weather. And then the parking lot, is the rough grade is down. They have another week's worth of soil excavation, grading, and then they'll be able to start hot topping, so that'll probably be about 2 weeks as well. We should see. So everything's kind of coming together very quickly, and we'll probably be cutting it close to the start of school, but it should all be wrapped up.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do we anticipate the hot top will be done before the teachers come back?
From what Chris is saying, that's the plan, and it seems like they're on that line. I know there was one item that I think Pat you had for us, Chris mentioned, about adding a drain. Yes, no?
I thought we were just adding it because I thought it was needed, so we needed to do it.
Okay, I think he thought we were discussing. You want to high level it?
Yeah, I don't know enough about the drain, so you'll have to.
Okay, so for the access road, going around the backside of the building to the backyard, they want to add a basin and a drain out to another catch basin we have just past the red shed that holds the water pumps, water tanks, just to make sure there's no pooling in that area. So Steve and the contractors looked at it, and I think he estimated it at less than $5,000 bucks, and we wanted to do that. So I think he was hoping to approve it, or I guess we'll approve it. So I guess I would say that I can answer questions on it from what I know.
The additional water going to be able to be, is the catch basin able to handle?
Yeah, so I guess he
water?
said there's an existing basin behind that red shed, and this is actually going to help. Currently, some of that water pools behind the shed and starts to flood into water. I don't know if you've ever been in the basement. Yeah, well, into the pump chamber underneath the red shed. But there's a catch basin behind that, and he said they're going to get it steered into, so it's not causing issues.
And Steve, the town engineer, has reviewed it.
Yeah, he said Steve and the contractor. So I make a motion to additional amount of $5K for that basin.
I will second that motion. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question.
No.
Zach, is that catch basin, it has a drain that's going to require digging, or is it going to be like a dry well kind of a thing? What does that do? Because there is a sort of a little stream down there. What does that do to that stream?
It's a structure and a pipe basically to bring it out to the catch area behind the red shed. So it would be a small concrete structure with a pipe coming off the side down to that shed, pitched everything together.
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you, but the catch basin you're talking about would just hold the water and it would seep into the ground right there, or there would be a drain?
The catch basin would have a pipe that would then bring it out past the red shed where the water comes.
And the engineer was able to look at how that might change the flow pattern of that stream into the pond, and that was okay with our engineer?
Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily call it a stream, but yes, it would just,
Have a little bridge over it.
there behind that.
Yeah, you're talking about the red shed by the kindergarten?
I'm talking, no, next to the module. Yeah, that little red shed right there. And that's just the pump chambers in the water tanks.
We need more colors of sheds.
Yeah, they're all the
Red
same
shed, blue
color.
shed, green shed.
Yeah.
So it's just to prevent ponding in the roadway that goes out between the building and the granite face.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just concerned that when we change that flow, the outflow there to a more focused, in the big rains we've been getting this summer, for example, that could really change the erosion patterns into that area under the bridge that I think Ellen's talking about. And I guess my question is
Bridge
it
that Alan's talking
thinking
about is
about
behind the building on the side.
behind the what?
Yeah, I was thinking of the one that was behind the kindergarten building. He's talking about over by the modulars.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That's an unused area. And the water is still running that way. We're just able to control it.
And there's cattails and stuff.
Yeah, we're just able to control
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Nate?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, any other facility updates?
it. Just one question.
Do we have a backup plan for parking if we don't have the hot tub finished before the teachers come back? Would they be able to park on that without the hot tub down?
The
or would
hot tub wasn't down. They could, it'd probably
Be
be better
great,
not
but,
to.
yeah.
I contact people aware of all that stuff. I don't think that's concerned.
Okay.
The hot top going down quick.
Right.
I think the bigger concern, and I've talked to Chris about this, and she's gonna have time with driver's ed. And just remind the
Turning.
teachers turning and all that
Wheels.
stuff, just to take it easy on it for the first couple of weeks. While it's,
So we'll stop.
well, yeah, it's gonna be hot for a couple of days. So he said he'd get something done. I talked to him, just remind him, take it easy on it.
The parking pattern is also gonna change from what they have been doing, so.
They'll have lines, the lines
Yeah.
may go down a
The
weekend
lines
after
are
school
like
starts,
in a
but
different orientation than people were previously
Everybody has to find
parked.
new spots.
it's gonna
Yeah.
be, it's gonna be a great test to see if the lines can be followed, right? But in the lines, there may be a couple of days of school between asphalt going down and paint going down where they don't, maintaining, but, it should.
So do we have to consider also then, like, yes, the teachers need a little bit of education on what to do or not to do, but also the back to school barbecue, because it's gonna be community cars here.
There is going to be, that is something, that's a good point. I mean, that's the day before school starts. So the parking lot will likely be ready. We may want to just leave it closed to give it another day to cool off. in which case-
Especially if there's not lines on it yet.
Right, I mean, we can go, we very easily can go off. And then we still have all the parking up behind the ball field, all that's in the pipe, we have the backyard, we have the road all the way. So we can still wrap quite a few cars. Fill up everything.
Any other questions? Okay. We are now on handbook changes.
Did we actually vote for it?
Did we vote? Yeah, we did.
Yes, okay. I can't remember.
Are you back? Do you want Chris
I
to
thought-
come here?
Yes. That were good questions.
Do you want to just give a little
Sure.
spiel?
So there were a few pages of handbook changes, only the highlighted sections were changed, so I think there were like 5 pages. They were pretty straightforward. And obviously the drop off and pickup procedures are changing. And then there's something about, we changed our software, our payment center for our lunches. We're now gonna be SAU-wide using the same program, which is much easier to have assistance and have our tech integrator know how to run all of our systems. And it was the same price. So Gail is working with Josh at the SAU, and they're gonna get all that information out to parents as soon as that's up and accounts are all set. There wasn't a whole lot. Anything else I missed? Dismissal. Can't read that green. Oh, that's the attendance.
The attendance
Yeah.
for field trips.
Yeah.
The proposed added language is if a student has less than 80% attendance rate leading up to an end of the year class trip, they will not be eligible to attend the trip. Administration shall review on a case-by-case basis.
So that's the most important piece, the case-by-case basis. Obviously, if a student's having struggles of any type, they're not gonna be held from a field trip. It's meant to be an incentive for don't blow off 2 weeks of school and then come in on field trip day.
Normally, I can't, I mean, I raised it, so I can't pull it up. But.
I can give it to you if
Would
you want
call
mine.
it was just a traffic pattern.
Yeah, I talked to Brian about that. I told him about your idea to flip it. His concern was teachers coming in at the same time. So then it would mean teachers would have to cross over. So he felt like they had enough staff stationed to do the flow the initial way, yeah.
He's gonna buy them.
They could change it. They need to.
Did anyone have any other questions? All the changes are in the drum and there weren't that many.
Yes, I had a question.
Yeah.
And it's partly answered in the policies, but but I think it's still worth at least mentioning or bringing up. In previous iterations of the handbook, there has been mention, I think mostly for parents and for kids if they read it, when they read it. But there are cases where students or families are not able or don't pay for lunch. So in that lunch section and the payment of the lunch section of the handbook, I feel like it's been taken out, and I don't know if it was this year that was taken out or a previous year, but if a student isn't or can't pay, what happens? And yeah, that is one of the policies that we're talking about right now, but is it worth adding some language in there so that parents are, for those parents who don't either, go take the time to go find the policies, is there stuff that's worth adding in there about lunch payment or not?
You want to link a reference to the policy, Nate?
Or summarize in like 2 sentences what the policy is or what the gist of it is, so that parents, so it's there in a easily accessible place that all parents see. Going to find policy language is not the easiest, process for parents, and so if it's there.
They're all electronic, Trish, right? Handbooks don't get printed anymore, can they? So they're electronic, Nate, so I think we could put the link to the policy with a little sentence also. And then if they want to read the policy, the link is there.
Yeah, I mean, the policy, I remember being kind of.
It's pretty specific, yeah, it's very detailed, but we could put a little, like
Yeah.
Nate said, a couple of sentences and then a link to the policy if people want to read the whole policy.
I think that's a good idea, because the policy itself is very dense and quite long. So yeah, I agree with Nate's suggestion that we do a 1 to 2 sentence summary
Fine.
and then link to the policy. Thanks, Nate.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts about the handbook?
So we need to approve this tonight or we wait till next?
I would approve it as amended, and then if you see, next meeting, you see something.
Move to approve as amended.
Second. Any other discussion? All right, Zach,
Yes.
Ellen, Nate,
Aye.
aye. Yes. Okay. The next item on the agenda is voting at DCS. I did receive an email from John Harrington today. We had previously invited the Board of Selectmen to come to a meeting and explain what they were looking for in terms of voting at DCS. They had sent us a letter in the spring asking if we would consider it. We invited them to one meeting. They didn't attend, so we tabled it and then offered them to come to this meeting, which they were going to do. Apparently they're no longer interested in discussing voting at DCS. I think they're still going to maintain voting at the town hall for now. I obviously told John that if they change their mind or want to discuss it again, they have to just let us know and we'll put them back on the agenda. And that's that. High school planning updates. I will just echo what Zach said in public comments in that this time is to be used for us to brainstorm. We are all aware of our duties to figure out a solution for the high school and try to figure out a solution that is fair to the taxpayers and that is also fair to the voters who voted for school choice. I think it's something that all of us are aware of, and I will just say to the people who are saying that we are only considering Concord, I think you're doing a huge disservice to the town by perpetuating that, because I don't think we have seriously discussed that at any meeting. I can't speak for everyone on the board or what's exactly going to happen, but I just don't think that's ever really been a valid consideration. So I would appreciate everyone's consideration while we work through this. There are obviously a lot of conversations between the schools, when you're negotiating, it is a back and forth process. We say we want something, the school says they want something else, and this is what a negotiation is. Unfortunately, it takes some time. We are sensitive to the fact that 8th graders don't know where they're going, and it has always been my hope that we can get them an answer before school starts. That's not gonna be tonight, but I am hopeful that we'll be either at the next meeting or we'll have to call a special meeting to vote on it before school starts, if we can. My understanding is that the high school committee, Ellen and Danielle and Patty, I believe, all met with Concord again. And I don't know if there's anything publicly that you want to share. Again, we can't share everything because we are really in the thick of negotiating right now. But if there's anything you wanted to share, or if there's any thoughts about a timeline or any other comments that you wanted to make about high school planning, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I actually wrote something up, but I'm not even gonna read it at this point. But we are in negotiations with several schools, and it is very frustrating to hear all the social comments that we're ignoring everybody and we're just going with Concord High. It's really upsetting. We have never said that in any of the meetings. And what I feel is that we are trying to give information on all the different schools. We had a meeting last week about special ed comparing 2 schools. We did that so we can make educated decisions. Whenever we say anything good about Concord High, it seems like everybody goes, oh, you're saying Hope Brown is terrible. We are not saying that. We are just giving information. So anyway, I'm gonna just back off from that because I obviously get a little bit upset about it. I encourage you to read some of the letters that we have received because there is one talking about Concord and academic excellence, because we are always hearing Concord High School trashed about what a horrible school it is and how it's not an excellent school. And people are using one thing to measure it, one standardized test, and they're not using anything else. So what I would encourage is that you read those letters. I would encourage, and I'm gonna say here, we did a comparison of schools. We put all that stuff together. I encourage you to look at that. We are looking at school choice. We are going to be scheduling a meeting with Co-Brown quite soon. We've been talking to Patty. So we are talking to different schools. We just can't tell you exactly what's happening because it's negotiations. So to end that, Danielle, do you want to add anything before I move on?
I can give one quick update that I received today I don't think is confidential. I did contact Co-Brown. Some folks were wondering if they would collect, if we consider top off, if they would.
Which we have been talking about.
If they
doing.
would collect the parent portion, or if that's something we would have to do. And they, the assistant headmaster said that would be part of the negotiation. So it wasn't they couldn't give us a yes or no. It would be more like when we're
So we have to
negotiating, that would be part of what we could discuss, how that would work.
So like everything, we don't have full control of what happens. So even with a top-off agreement, it's not something that the board can just go in and say, hello, Co-Brown, you are accepting a top-off agreement, thank you. You can collect this money from these families.
Then
So it's not as simple
it's not as simple as it's portrayed to be.
portrayed.
And this is, sometimes people don't like how sausage is made, but this is how it's made, right? It's an awful, it is what it is. It's not free, it's not easy. There is costs involved with whatever decisions we make. Every time you try to make one decision, there's cost implications that are tied to other decisions.
And we've been trying to be really open about what those costs would be.
And we have been, yeah, 100%. But at the end of the day, it doesn't have to cost anything, it's revenue neutral. That is a horrifically simplistic view of the facts, and it is inaccurate. So we have a responsibility as a board, and we have a responsibility to the community to look at all of the factors that are involved. And again, I think all of us here, we all have the best interest in the community at heart. Now, we all won't necessarily agree, but there isn't a single person sitting here spending all this time dealing with everything that we deal with to say that we don't have the best interest of the community in mind. But this is a complex thing that requires a a tremendous amount of legwork to sort through. It has financial implications no matter what direction we make. And we need to make sure that we look at every single aspect and think about the impacts that it has. Regards to top-off agreements, the legislator has made it okay. Now it's a topic that we can discuss. But there's still things that we have to discuss that as a community, are we good with top-off agreements? Because it does create situations where there's haves and have-nots. And we have to come to terms if we're gonna be comfortable with that as a body, and if we're gonna be comfortable with that as a group. So, I know everybody wants an instant answer and they just want what they want, but, due diligence requires time. And we need to let Ellen and Danielle do the work they're doing behind the scenes so that this board can make the decision it has to make once we have as much information as we can.
Which we're hoping to do soon,
And
because we have to do soon.
having done it a year ago in the negotiations, I know what you're going through and I know how every single time you move one thing, it impacts 5 others. So I thank you both for putting the effort in to get it all sorted out. I know how much an undertaking it is, and Nate does as well. And I think, we probably have some stuff to talk about after. But the community needs to understand this is a work in progress. You gotta let it happen.
So that being said, I don't know, do I need to move to put the school comparison on our website so for us to all agree to do that? Or should I just suggest, I would
I
like
don't
to
think we
see.
need a motion. So just for context,
Yep.
immediately after the election and when we were sworn in as board members, Danielle and Ellen took on the task of being on the high school committee. And they spent a lot of time and effort putting together a spreadsheet that is comparing a lot of statistics about various schools in our area. We had initially talked about this spreadsheet in conjunction with the survey that we sent.
Right.
At that time, I felt it was premature for it to go out. We hadn't had enough time to sort of vet it and review it. And I didn't want people reading into it while they're selecting their survey answers. However, now I think when we're getting down to it and people are gonna have to start making decisions soon, I would agree that we should publish it. And with the caveat that we are not promising that any of those schools
Right.
will be options.
We took what people said in the beginning when we were listening to the comments, we used the schools that they had.
So as much as people want to read into the spreadsheet, which evaluates multiple schools, I'm saying that this is not a list of the schools that we will be negotiating with. It is for informational purposes only, so that people can be better informed about the schools that we're talking about.
Yep, and we tried to give all the sources of where the data came from, so you can check the sources on it. But it goes through different things like the PSAT scores, the location, population profiles, diversity, finance, the educators, what they offer for curriculum, student life, like athletics and clubs. And some of them, we just gave links to the school website so you can see all the different clubs that they have. So it's really just for people to look at and compare the schools.
Yes, and I will also say, to dispel any comments that I'm sure we will get, we are not using this in any way to try to sway people
No.
into choosing one school or another.
No.
I think the information that you have gathered is factual, and you have cited all your sources, and it's not an attempt to convince anyone about anything. It is an informational document.
And I want to say too that, I feel like academic excellence, I feel like all these schools have academic excellence, or we wouldn't even be considering them. So that was one of the very first things that we talked about when we were thinking about choices of school. Do they have academic excellence? So we felt they were. Last meeting, people were saying, oh, you didn't mention academic excellence. So yeah, I wonder why, because Concord doesn't have it. No, they all do, or we wouldn't be considering them. That's our job, is to make sure they're all good schools. So by saying that we think one school has academic excellence, we're not saying the others don't. They all do. And I think if you look at it, you'll see. They do. But you have to look at more than just one test score.
Kendra?
Oh, Nate, did you have something?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, I had a question about that before we go forward with this. I appreciate all the work that has gone into that, and I certainly agree that trying to provide as much information is a valuable step, but my concerns are the same about this step as last time, which is I don't want to be implying too many things. And I'm glad you just sort of made that caveat that, what are we using to make our decision? Is this spreadsheet exactly the thing that we're using? There's a lot that we're obviously incorporating into these decisions that we're making in the near future. My question, I guess, before we post this is, and this is for Ellen and Danielle, has more data since we looked at this back in March? Has it? I haven't looked at it since March. Is there more information in there, or is it still the same version that we saw back in March?
No, it's different. It's
Well,
well,
we're gonna change the order of things.
Oh, right.
To alphabetical and.
that was for the survey.
Right.
No, this is, I think we listened to some of the things that people said, like, for
Okay.
instance, dropout rate, I don't think we put that in there. We took that out. But we tried
Like
to.
for instance, Ellen, you just mentioned one of the letters that we received over these last couple of weeks since our last meeting, and I thought it was a very informative letter with a new look at some of the test scores that incorporated some things that I hadn't looked at previously. I thought that was a really
Yeah.
useful piece of information. Has that, for instance, gone into the spreadsheet yet, or might it in the future, in the near future?
Trying to
I think that's an important
I'm
point.
trying to remember right now. Well, some of the stuff that's in there is diversity. One of the things that I had in my letter was that people aren't considering when you're looking at test score that Concord High, I'm just going to read it really quickly, this part. This is based on 2019 data from New Hampshire DOE. Concord High is 79.98 white students, Co-Brown is over 90%. 31.24% of students are economically disadvantaged at CHS, whereas Co-Brown is less than 10%. Concord High has 15.8% of students with disabilities, Co-Brown has 10. And CHS has lots of students where English is their second language, and yet they test like 98% of their population. The letter that was in there was talking about what percentage of the student population are taking these tests. And Concord High is extremely high. They work really, really hard to get all their kids to take the test. And of course, that's going to bring average test scores down. When you're adding in people with, English as a second language, it's a standardized test. It's not meant for somebody who has another language. So the letter that came in was that was specifically what she was talking about, was the percent of how many of the kids took it, participation rate in the test. We do not have that in the spreadsheet, but it is in the letter. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, right. So that's my only concern is still the same concern from before, is that as we release all this information, there's still a lot of gray out there.
The test scores that were talked about were like the standard, the common assessment test. The test that the state uses for benchmarks at high schools are PSATs. The PSATs, I'm just looking at right now the spreadsheet. Co-Brown for reading is 555. That's their average. Concord High School is 535. That's only 20 points less. For reading, it's 535 at Co-Brown. It's 501. And I have Pembroke here too. They're all fairly close. So if you take the total mean reading and math for the PSATs, it's 1,090 at Co-Brown. It's 1,035 at Concord. It's 968 at Pembroke. Dover High is 1047. They're all really close to each other if you're considering PSATs. But I think if I remember correctly, some of the test scores we've heard were kneecap, and they don't even do kneecaps anymore. They just do, except for maybe science. I'm not even sure about that. I was trying to research that. They don't, right? They do, it's all Common Core assessments now, yeah.
And ultimately.
And we had COVID in there too. We made the changeover and then we had COVID. Right, so it's kind of crazy to use those tests.
But for most children, most of our students, they can have a positive experience at any high school.
Yeah.
They will have positive outcomes at
Absolutely.
any high school. And it's important to remember that.
Right.
The outcomes are partially driven by the students.
Absolutely.
And the students' willingness to succeed, and the students' willingness to learn. And there's, I think, occasionally lose track of that. Discussions, but there's a certain level of personal responsibility when you get to become a high school student, family responsibility. And the outcomes are, the opportunities are there for everybody to learn. So, this is one thing.
All
And I don't
right, so
know-
I would say,
Go ahead.
I would say, yeah, I'm in favor of sending this out as long as, I think it's been clear with our conversation and people who are listening, I think will understand that we as a board we are looking at as wide a collection of data and information as possible to make these decisions that are coming at us in the next few meetings, like you said. So, yeah, it's good for information for everybody to see.
I would say, just as the community was saying, don't look at costs as the only data point. We're not looking at one test score as the only data point for our decision. So,
And it's not just student performance we have to weigh. It is cost, it's student performance, it's location, it's the community that's there, it's the
their
opportunities.
willingness to take our
Willingness
students.
to take our students.
Right.
There is a lot of factors.
And how many students they'll take for what price,
And-
that changes.
And will they take any of the students that want to apply there? Now, I mean, there's all these processes that go into this before it gets kind of rolled out. It's not, we'll just sign a contract with no percentage and top off everywhere else, because that doesn't work. It doesn't happen because math isn't going to get to support. And you also have to have willing participants in the contract.
Do have some things I wanted to say too. I don't know.
Please.
Say them, okay. I know with the spreadsheet, I also know that there are people in town that are very pro Concord and there's some who are very pro Co-Brown. And I don't know that the spreadsheet is gonna mean anything to them. They might not look at it. I get that. You know, there's some people who definitely want certain schools and that's fine. I think this spreadsheet is more for the families that really just want to see the information, just want to see the differences in different aspects of the school. They want to see what sports one school has over another, you know. As far as some of the community comments, I think just reiterating what everyone has said already, it's been very disheartening to hear how the audience has heard these meetings so vastly differently. I stepped out last week and I think shaking my head like I don't understand. I know I came onto this board saying from the very start, no matter what my opinion is for school choice, I am gonna work hard to make sure I do what the town voted for, because that is my job. So for people to say that, you know, I'm just gonna speak for myself, that I am just pushing for an extended contract with Concord is maddening, because I don't think I'd be spending all the extra time I've been doing with emails and setting up meetings and even per a community member holding a special meeting in July with the board to sort this out. So please, I know there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of impatience in the town right now. Be patient with us. I am determined to get some of this sorted out before the school year starts for the incoming 8th graders. That has been a priority of ours, as well as hearing the town about school choice, so.
I will also, as a caveat, say that I am deeply disappointed by any comments that say they will vote down anything related to the school unless people get exactly what they want. As a board, we are always focusing on what is best for the students and what is best for the community. And for people in the community to say, I don't care what's best for the community or the students, I want what I want, and it doesn't matter, I think is very disheartening. Correct. We unfortunately do have a space problem at DCS. On one hand, everyone is saying, how can our students be in these decrepit modulars? And on the other hand, everyone is saying, we're not gonna pay for this if you don't give me exactly what we want for high school. And I just can't really square those two opinions. And I think just the premise that we're all acting on bad faith for some reason is very disheartening, because we spend a lot of time thinking about these things and trying to figure out a way to make this all work. And I can't convince people that, you know, we are acting in good faith, but I know every member of this board, and I firmly believe that we all have students and the community's best interests in mind. Are there any other comments about high school planning updates for now.
Yeah, does posting the spreadsheet require a motion or not?
I don't think so.
Could you just make sure, send it to Ashley and I in the format that it needs to go on the website and make sure we have the right one? Yep. Thank you.
So it's not gonna be is it gonna be a live document that's shared, or is it gonna be a downloaded, like, whatever, PDF or something?
I would say a PDF.
PDF, yeah.
It will go on the SAU website.
I want people to high school information, right?
With high school information, so we can also we can't upload a document to Facebook, we can upload photos.
Can you upload
And
the
the
link?
You can upload, not really, to the SharePoint.
Not to SharePoint, right?
So not really. I have done a Google link, like from my,
Or you could do a screen capture of
Correct. So
showing
I've
it
done
where it
pictures,
is, yeah.
so like for the agenda, I posted photo, because you can't post a link to the SharePoint. But we'll figure out how to get it posted to the Facebook as well, with some of the caveats that I have already made.
What's Ashley's last name again?
GLADU. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now we are on to 23-24 board goals. I put this on the agenda tonight, not so that we would finalize our goals tonight, but just so that we can start thinking about goals. I would really like to get goals voted on by our first business meeting in September. In the drive are the goals from last year. So if everyone wants to take a look at those, and then we can start brainstorming. I would recommend anyone sort of write down any goals that they think the board should have for the next school year. Any comments?
And you want us to submit those into the drive for our next meeting?
Yeah, yes. I think that makes sense. Submit, what do they do? Email Ashley or
Or
you?
both, either one of us, but copy me if you don't.
Okay, if you would like to draft goals and have them reviewed before the meeting, send an email to Patty and Ashley so that they can get uploaded into the drive. Otherwise, you're welcome to bring the goals to the meeting, the first business meeting in September, and we can draft them.
Can I-
brainstorm there.
Kendra? Can I just offer as an idea, maybe an initial draft could be for our next meeting, and then we could finalize them for the September meeting?
I think that's a good idea. 2 weeks seems like enough time to jot some ideas down. And then we can finalize September meeting, first September meeting. Thank you, Nate.
Yeah.
Does anyone have questions about the board goals or anything related to that?
We never really went back and looked at last year's goals. You know, often there's sort of an annual, like a calendar event is to, finalize the goals in, let's say, whatever, July, August, September. Maybe last year's, it wasn't until October. But then we also want to come back at some point and kind of think about how we did with our previous year's goals before too much time gets away. So that was just something we had a lot going on, but that did not get done in the spring.
Okay.
So I don't know if we want to do that or not, but it's something we've done in the past.
I definitely think we should, and everyone has them because they're in the drive for this week. So we can certainly add it to the discussion for next meeting. Reviewing those goals, doing a draft of the next school year goals. Does that work?
Works for me.
Okay. Board reports, PTO update.
I don't have any updates, but I'm here to talk about a barbecue.
Yeah, barbecue, okay.
Barbecue.
So three of us were not on the board last year for the barbecue, though you were on the PTO, so you probably know. What do you need from us? How does this work? What should we be talking about?
Well, Trish, you work with the kitchen to get all the food
Yeah,
out, so that's
get the-
covered. We do watermelon and cookies. And you guys have to do a lot of cooking.
What was that? It's a 4-person operation to run
Okay.
grills.
Okay, well,
You have
that
to
is
burn
all
all the
right.
hair off your arms before you start.
I've used to grill approximately once.
So then you may want to
That'll be great.
be the odd person. No,
You can get the buns ready.
No, that's my job.
Oh, that's your
I have that job.
Listen, everybody has a role on
Condiments.
barbecue day.
Condiments, make sure they're full and clean.
So in the past though, I believe you guys have brought like your grilling tools and things like that, because I don't know how many sets we have. And I believe we have 2 propane tanks and the grills we have
I feel
actually
like I
only
used-
function if you have 4.
I think I usually.
I was just say, I think the school has 2, but we still need
The school has
2 more at
2,
least.
but we need 2 more.
Bring
You're gonna
some-
bring 2.
And last year I took them to get filled and the guy looked at me like I was crazy because he said they were full. So- I don't know, do you want me to?
Yeah.
Do you want me to grab them again and see if they need to be filled?
Can we have Chris do that? We don't need that. Chris? No?
Sure. Poor Chris.
He's got nothing going on. We can figure it out. I'll swing by.
And then you'll bring 2 extra
I'll
too?
bring some space.
Sweet.
In terms of advertising for this, do you guys have like an event or anything on your Facebook page? Or do you want us to make an event on the school board page?
I think the school.
The school
the
always
school
made the
does, okay.
events with the hours and all the information and I just shared it.
Okay. Okay.
Was this, last year, did we, I feel like we discussed last year the idea of opening this up and making it a community-wide event rather than just a school community event? Patty, do you remember how that conversation went? Can you remind me?
Well, with our parking situation this year,
I
that might
know.
not be a
It
good
makes
We
me
idea.
may
nervous
want to
this
hold
year.
off one more year now.
Yeah, good.
Not
That's-
that, not
I
that we're
agree.
like carding people at the door to see if they're involved with the school. I think
Just we might have trouble with parking as it is.
But I guess what I was asking is if we put it on the school board Facebook page, that might be too broad a circulation, or say, if we do say something like school community, parents and students are welcome or something like that.
I think the DCS back to school barbecue.
Yeah.
What date were we scheduled for?
It was Monday, the 28th.
Oh, sorry.
And did we say 4 to 7 this time or 4 to 6?
I don't have a preference. Do we usually do 2 hours? Personally, 2 hours seems tight for me for people who are getting home from work.
So we have
I have a lot of dead time at the end.
found historically over the years, it's about an hour of it that's really, really busy. Like the first half hour and the last half hour is usually quieter, and honestly, the last half hour is a lot of the staff coming in. Food and kind of moving through. So I think 2 hours is good. It's just a little.
Do we know what teachers have been saying in the back to school letter?
One said they said in those letters 4 to 7 barbecue. How about the teachers, because they're already here all day, like, are only here from, say, 4 to 5:30. 4 to 6 at the most.
Okay.
6 to 5:30.
Well, we should probably be consistent with what people have already said.
I thought we said 4 to 7 for some reason, but I
Yeah,
didn't remember
that
why.
sounds-
And I think it was to give more time in the classrooms and that way we were still cooking until later when the teachers came out.
Got it. That seems fine to me, but
Okay.
I have not done this before, so.
It's so much fun. It's actually the best
Well-
school board day of the year.
What else do we need to plan for and prepare for?
I'm sorry, maybe you guys were just talking about this, but are the teachers are going to be having open classrooms that night as well, right? Is
Yes.
this- Yes, okay. But not the middle school, or that's also the middle school? I feel like the middle school was a different night last year, but maybe I'm wrong.
We didn't have the middle school meeting the
Right,
same
they
night. I
didn't do the
remember
same.
years ago, we all went in the cafeteria and
Right.
had a middle school meeting and Brian went over the handbook for middle school and things like that.
They
We
didn't do
didn't
that
do that
last
last year, but middle school was still
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
Kristen will put out the schedule of events for kids.
So I think the big thing is the tanks that you all arrive to cook and the barbecue tools and coolers for whoever has coolers.
I do.
And I know Principal Whitney always brings her a big,
She's a huge
giant one. and-
Does that mean you need ice too?
Yes. I think Ma's Cafe helped us last year with ice. We can reach out to them again.
What time do you want the board to be there to go?
Say by 3.
I'm your kids, so put it
Mine's not that helpful.
I was just gonna say, you don't want
But she's
that I might.
She's
bring.
cute, but she's not that helpful.
away. The door.
She'll entertain everyone else.
Yeah.
I'll bring my kids.
Okay, so I will, at least before this, we can talk about this again on the 16th, just as a reminder, but I will send an email with just what time to be there, what people need to bring, et cetera. So we can get that organized. Is there anything else you need us to do? We don't need like condiments or like utensils or,
Just the grilling utensils.
Okay.
Trish has
You know,
taken care of
utensils,
everything
all the
else.
food.
okay,
All the food, all the plates.
Do you have the
Contact-
knives?
So ice and coolers too.
I see.
I'll check with you.
I couldn't remember if it was the knives were, like where we got the knives for the watermelons from.
I think we always borrow them from the cafeteria.
Okay.
Somebody brought
See?
And then usually Chris helps us like get all the tables we need and like all the trash cans we need and all those things. He helps us get outside.
Okay. Do we have like music or anything? Do people want, do we do like a speaker?
it. Last year, they tried out some good stuff from the.
Yeah, they, sometimes they put out stuff for kids to do.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty loud.
Okay.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
talking.
You've never come, ever.
I have a 4-year-old. Hasn't gone to kindergarten yet.
It's a good time. It's a nice day.
Sounds good. Anything else?
I think that covers it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. I don't think there was an executive board.
We had a quick one last night.
Oh,
Like a
couldn't.
10-minute meeting to hire our final alternative program teacher. We just have one left to hire, so that's literally all it was.
I was not in attendance.
I think we had our quorum, there were 3 people.
Yes. Okay. Do you have Ms. Withey's principal report?
No, she's
Okay.
gonna get that to the next meeting.
Curriculum review board.
It was a short meeting, May 22nd.
Oh,
We talked about it since then, yeah. So there wasn't really much talked about. The curriculum that's going to be coming to us will be library, art, music, and wellness. And I have to say, the one thing that was, it made me a little bit, I don't know what's the right word. I was a little bit concerned. There was no science rep at all. And the comment was actually made that they might be integrating science and social studies into ELA, and that really upset me. So it was just a very off the cuff remark. It was my very first meeting, so I didn't say much, but I'm certainly going to be on top of that. But I would like to see a science rep, and maybe even, I know social studies has been rolled into language arts, but there should be a science rep there. So, there wasn't.
I'm also gonna add MBC to the board reports. It's not on the agenda, but I will add it in case Zach has any updates.
Yeah, we'll get started up again.
Um,
There is the presentation last night.
Yes. I have given the slideshow from the Municipal Budget Committee, for those who don't know, had the New Hampshire Municipal Association come and give a presentation about budgets and how the Municipal Budget Committee and the governing bodies work together to create those budgets and get them passed, hopefully. I have given these slides to Patty, and she'll upload them to the drive so everyone can see them. It was a very informative session, and I would encourage everyone to look at the slides. I know the New Hampshire Municipal Association said they do budget trainings with the School Board Association. So if I get dates and stuff for that, I will circulate those because I think everyone should get a good primer on the budgeting process, which probably needs to start.
Sure does.
Do we know when we will start doing that?
So we typically try to have the budget to you the first meeting in November. We're hoping, I think we're gonna be able to switch our consultant that we've been using to help with audits and look at our overall business practices has suggested that we should be using our accounting system to do our budgeting, not Excel spreadsheets, which I wholeheartedly agree with.
Yeah.
That just creates room for error when you're doing manual work. You can export things into Excel from the system, but we should be putting everything into the system. So we haven't closed books yet. There's still some stuff coming in, and we're trying to get all the grants closed. So hopefully that will go smoothly and quickly once those pieces are done. And then we can start, Mrs. Withy, pretty much when school starts, puts things out to teachers to already start looking at the following year. It comes in drips and drabs. It's not, we haven't even barely ended this year. We're trying to estimate what our utilities are gonna be.
Right.
And so it takes some work.
From a process standpoint, so the school district never built a zero-based budget, so she starts at zero and just basically has it. She has salary, she has benefits, she has busing, food, electrical, she adds everything in. So nothing is necessarily a carryover. It always is justified as it's added into the budget. That being said, the process takes time. Admin works on it. We get it in November. We're usually waiting for updates for benefit costs and retirement. Mid-November, we wrap it up. Beginning of December, usually because of the way the EPC meets, they always meet the day after we do. I'm sorry, they always meet the day before we do, so they always end up a week behind us on anything. But usually, first, second week of December, talk to the EPC. Carry on. I don't have the assignments this week. Are you the alternate for the?
Yes, I am.
So probably, because I'll be retired next year,
Yes.
worth trying to jump in at least when the school stuff is. Just to see it.
Definitely. I will plan to attend
You're
this.
welcome to take the table and I'll sit in the audience if you want. No.
I'm happy to watch.
Is that hard no?
Yeah, hard no. I am happy to watch and review the process, and obviously, if specific questions come up that I, for some reason, know about, I'm happy to answer any questions.
And next year I'll know.
This is not a board report and something that I should have probably brought up in facility updates, but so this is a non-agenda item. I'm adding it right now. There was an email about a potential grant
yeah.
element. Didn't know if you wanted to chat about that.
Well, I don't have my thing up, but basically, you were thinking about it for solar. Solar is completely exempt from that grant.
Oh, okay.
Right, so they had a solar grant for communities back in March, but for schools, this was for energy stuff. So energy efficiency, there is something there for HVAC, but it seems pretty hard to get it for what you have to do.
Is there anything in there for
What do we need to insulate?
Once you give me
Foam it, and I will find it.
yeah, we could get it tonight.
Yeah,
It's kind of
I didn't read the language.
yeah, and there's a lot that you have to do to get the grant. I mean, an awful lot. So you have to have letters from everybody. Yeah. And you also have to provide so much in kind. And you have to be a disadvantaged school, so you have to be you have to meet two of the priorities, and I don't think we meet them. But anyway, I can send it to you guys so you can look at it. I started to make a spreadsheet, and then I thought, busy on something else.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to
So-
thrust it on you.
No.
From a solar standpoint,
Yes.
target, if we're gonna pursue a solar project, needs to be within 12 months of the completion.
Right.
Because warranty for the roofing carries if the solar goes on for 12 months. It doesn't want in 12 months, we have to have them come and recertify the installation. Which I'm sure will come at a small cost. Cost our state.
Yeah, the timeline might work, but it's absolutely not for solar. It says right in there, it's not for solar.
And the way that we'll end up with solar.
Or any kind of electricity production.
Yeah, it's gonna.
So potentially we'll think about that for a warrant article, or if we can use one of our trust funds or something.
So depending on the process, I know Chris was just starting to work on it. We talked to some solar companies a couple of years ago when we were expansion. Typically for schools, solar is done with a power purchase agreement. And so that's more of an agreement. We provide them the real estate, we put the panels up, buy our power, it's great. And that's how it works. So
Okay.
I don't know if it would need a warrant article to do it because of the way it occur. But once we have a demo, it's like,
Okay. Sorry.
Kendra,
Yes.
I had a quick question to go back to the CRB with Ellen. And that was, Ellen, sorry, which were the curricula that were up this upcoming year?
So it's library, art, music, and wellness and health.
If you're looking for, and when you get to the point at some point in the year, if you're looking for readers to take a look at it later in the process, I'd be happy to take a look at a couple of those if you need a reader. In particular, the library one I'd like to look at.
Great.
But I'd be happy to look at whatever if you want, if you need
Okay,
something.
cool. Thanks. I'll make a note of that.
All right, it is 7:30. I think we probably have a few minutes to go through policies.
I can just quickly walk through, comment on them more than anything.
Yeah.
So the meal charging policy, I filled in the blanks and sent it this afternoon back to the school because I just want them to look at all the blanks that we filled in and make sure that they're accurate and represent what we actually do here.
So that one's not ready for approval?
Not right now. No, I want them to give it one more look to make sure. I
I
have
was just wondering about one thing in there, Patty.
Yeah.
Is there, when they have to talk, like when a student's account is way up and all that, is there discretion in dealing with the student? Because that wasn't really in the policy.
What do you mean by
Like-
discretion?
like- Like, the student, you can't have this lunch, you have to
Oh,
have
no,
this lunch.
no,
I mean,
No,
it's,
the students get the lunch.
I
Yeah,
know
that's
that,
where-
but what I'm
that's where-
saying is there discretion when they do that? Because that
No.
could be really embarrassing for the
Yeah,
child.
no, the board, and that's something the board has to discuss. If you want to change that, I struck that because this board decided that students get the same lunch. So that there's no
Oh, they
and
get
a
the
cheese
same lunch, they
sandwich.
don't get the peanut butter and jelly or whatever, okay.
Years ago,
all
we
right.
did away with the peanut butter.
Okay, so
sunbutter,
I was just concerned about them being singled out,
Correct,
not
and
singled
that's-
out because they get the lunch, okay,
correct,
that's all,
Whatever's on the menus.
okay, all right, good, that was my only concern.
And then there's GCG, which is the substitute professional staff employment. I don't think, even though yours is old, it hasn't, the school board association didn't change it, so that should be easy to look at. You have a third reading, you had a policy on tuition of resident high school students to public secondary vocational programs. The reason it's on here is we sorted by date and we're trying to bring up all of the really old policies. There is no school board association policy for that, so I'm assuming back in the day, Deerfield put that in, making it clear when students had choice in high school that they would still have access to the CRTC programs no matter where they went, is sort of my reading of it. I don't know, we'll leave it on the agenda because you're negotiating and that may actually come up, so I think just keep the policy
I
as
had
is until we
A
get
quick
through
question
that.
about that, is an MOU considered a contract?
If the school that you were negotiating with didn't have a CRTC program, you would want to make sure you address that. And if you did it in the MOU, you wouldn't need a policy. So I don't know, I'm assuming this was when it was like wide open, because it's a really old policy. Board, I'm assuming at some point made the decision that wherever students ended up, they would have access to CRTC, sounds like. So that probably needs to be on hold for now.
Yes.
Field trips and excursions, there was, the school board association did not have a paragraph that's in your current policy, and I think we talked about that with taking photos. So I think my understanding is you want to leave that paragraph in that mentions when teachers take students on field trips, parents need to check if they have permission to photograph
From the
them.
teachers and from the place they're going.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that,
I
my
just
understanding was
added
you
that.
wanted that back, yeah. So if you wanna act on that, or if people still need more time, that's.
Was there a reason why overnight or out-of-state trips have to have board approval?
I think that's
Why?
always been that
Always
way,
been.
just because,
The expense.
because you're taking kids overnight and you don't want people to
Or
decide.
my board might look at that and
off with
going,
the kids.
Actually, when
The
we
board
take
wants to
over,
hear
it's
more
out of state.
consent. Right, you want more consideration when it's further away or overnight. You want the board to specifically address that and approve it. That's pretty standard.
Does anyone feel like they want to act on that one, or should we hold it if people want to review it further?
just so you know, in the first paragraph, the last two sentences are duplicate.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I think it's on your original, not on the.
All right.
Yeah.
You want to act on it?
We can act on it.
I move policy IJ.
As drafted?
Yeah.
I will second. Any discussion? Okay, Zach?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yeah.
Nate?
Aye.
Aye, sure. Great.
JJC was student public performances. That was a really old policy that you had, and Nate had suggested some edits that you received a couple of meetings ago. So that one's finished if you're interested in moving it.
I am good with it as well. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the JJC student public performance policy
As revised.
as revised. Sorry, thank you.
Second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have discussion on that one. What I kind of threw the language together a little bit quickly last time, and I think most of it I don't want to change, but I think the last sentence I would like to go in and change. So I'm going to propose an amendment to this policy before we hopefully approve it. And the only change I want to make is that let me pull up the language. Are you all looking at it now or not?
You might want to wait because you don't have packets.
Okay.
Send the amendment and
Yeah, will you make the change, Nate, and then we'll vote on it at the next meeting?
Are you going to withdraw your motions?
Yeah. I will
Then I'll withdraw my amendment, yeah. Sure, I'll do it that way.
Okay.
Another old and outdated policy that you had was on student corporal punishment. It was really old. There's a new school board association policy that is not required, but it is recommended. So you'll need to decide if you want to go with their new version or you're choosing not to have it at all. It sort of references back to there's a restraint policy that has to be followed by law. So that will be your choice. You don't have to do that tonight. And then JLCF is the wellness policy. Again, lots of blanks got filled in and I sent that for one more look at the school. So I want to make sure that it represents the way they conduct their wellness committee here before we approve that. And then KDB doesn't exist in the school board policy manual, and that's sometimes what happens when policies are really old and they haven't been reviewed, because it's about right to know, and that's discussed in other policies, like your access to minutes describes how that process unfolds, and then it's pretty much by statute, so
We want to strike that.
you can just rescind it, yeah.
I move to strike.
Second. Any discussion? You look like you have a question.
I'm just not sure. I don't understand why we're getting rid of it.
It doesn't exist in the school board association manual anymore because right to know law has been put into the
Oh,
policies that it applies to. So if access to public documents and minutes is its own separate policy now. You have to follow the law. So it's
right,
not a-
right, yeah, okay.
The law would trump our policy either way.
Right, yeah, okay.
Sometimes it's good to get rid of a policy.
We try to keep the, our manual to mirror what the School Board Association has with the approval letters that they have, because when legislation changes and we have to update policies, then we're always using the most recent laws.
Right, so like our old policy may not reflect changes to the right to know policy, or right to know law.
I get it.
So probably best to rescind. All in favor?
Aye.
Nate?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Great, we are on to informational items.
I have one piece of information I was asked to gather, and that was the current cost of renovations and new construction. People were just curious when they're looking at the proposed addition, how much it would cost. This, of course, came with lots of disclaimers, and it depends on lots of different things, but round numbers, our architect for a couple of projects saw an average of $175 a square foot for renovation and $450 a square foot for new construction. And they're seeing approximately 6% escalation per year. So those, yeah, so those are current and lots of disclaimers. Yep, $450 a square foot for new construction.
I was interested in what Linda Perry said at the last meeting about if any of the stuff is grandfathered, because, you know, when we talk about we're out of compliance.
Yes,
Really
yes,
something-
until we start renovating or touching the building, we're grandfathered.
So we're not gonna be condemned, but whether or not it's the safest option
Correct.
for our
I understand, but I
students.
just wanted to be clear on that.
There were, like, the fire alarm was a safety issue,
Right.
and we were not in compliance.
The
We
roof
had
is
to address
leaking.
that, yes.
Yeah, right, I understand that.
Those are repairs, but.
Yeah.
They're actually,
Like
the
the schools aren't gonna get shut down because our cafeteria is too small.
Right, or we have second graders, first graders going up to the second floor. It's just not the best
That-
thing to do.
I guess the DOE could come in and we could get cited for it, because it doesn't follow the rules. They haven't been coming to do on-site reviews like that, in years.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get away with doing something
Yeah.
that's not allowed. I just was curious about if things were grandfathered or not and opening up a can of worms to spend a ton of money if we don't have to.
Some things are and some things aren't. That's,
when-
that example of having kids on the second floor, I don't.
That's
think they
not
would consider that
grandfathered.
to be grandfathered.
Okay.
That's like a significant safety
It's
issue.
it's minimum standards, square footage and locations of classrooms.
Be nice to look at all those things and think what's grandfathered and what isn't. So what are the, you know, to prioritize.
Yeah, and obviously, I wasn't at the meeting where the architects were there. So I had an opportunity to see some concepts. I know the plans that their post election kind of loss were pretty conservative. So, four classrooms, shuffled a few things around and made a few things better than the longer.
My only caution with the 4 classrooms is that
It's not enough.
it's not, like, you're not, you have legal requirements to service students with special education. And if you have them doubled, tripled, and quadrupled up, that's an issue.
Right.
So it's not just that we have modulars. There are, I'm not saying it needs to be huge,
It's like having
but
one
we
room.
would want to just, like, what are the top 5 priorities of
Yeah.
areas that we have issues?
I will say I would like to sort of see a list of this.
That's what I'd like to do, is take those things and say, and come up with what are our top priorities. And then what can we do about that?
Obviously, the objective would be to not have to do it first.
Do what?
Not have to do
Add on.
another edition.
And then do another edition like we did back in the, was it early, late 90s? Was it? When we had to do that?
Well,
addition.
we also have to consider, I mean, the 15 million, I mean, that's obviously a lot, but how much are we saving by getting rid of the modulars?
Nowhere near 15.
Right, I know, but I mean, we have to consider that in whatever we come up with as well. What are the savings from getting?
What 15 million is, but that's also,
That's
last time
that
around,
was-
we were fully renovating this place. Now, you're looking at it from a more discussion, just leave this alone. And stick something on the side.
Right.
Classrooms, bathrooms,
A lot, yeah,
a little bit of extra
library downstairs.
correcting some
art
spaces,
space.
shuffling some stuff around, but, a more minimal, that set of plans on it. Just notice was taking the stairwell out for the interior of this building, creating some breakout spaces, because that's a minimal renovation, not doing a ton of juggling, because you're building a stairwell 25 feet away for the new building and
Right,
the gap in between. And that's just one idea, but certainly can be tweaked, shortened, whatever, but at the end of the day,
I will say we're straying a little bit from informational items.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Bring us
Obviously
back,
this
bring
is
us in.
important and we're obviously all thinking about it and working on it, but I don't wanna go too astray since it was not an agenda item.
Okay.
Anything else for informational items? Okay. Back to public comments.
Kimberly Black, Meeting House Hill. I respect the challenges you guys have in making that spreadsheet to get a clear vision for yourself. As a parent, then there was life. As a parent of a now coming second grader, I have been looking at this since the thought of his conception. So, and I'm sure many other parents have been putting thought into this for years. So I do think that it's probably going to be looked at as more of a criticism opportunity, but I do appreciate it being out there to understand what are you looking at? I personally pulled up every town report for the past 14-ish years that Concord has been providing us with the list of our students and their graduation rates. Fiscal year 2011, DCS graduated 53 students out of our 8th grade class. Concord graduated 35 4 years later. In fiscal year 2012, DCS graduated 54 students. Concord graduated 35 4 years later. In fiscal year 13, DCS graduated 52 students. Concord graduated 35 4 years later. In fiscal year 18, DCS graduated 49 students. Concord graduated 30 4 years later. 2019, DCS did 48, Concord did 36. In 2016, DCS did 38, Concord did 34 4 years later. This was the closest gap, 4 years students difference. Fiscal 2017, DCS 54, Concord 4 years later did 34. In 2018, DCS 48, Concord 37 4 years later. Respectively in order, we are missing 18, 19, 17, 16, 18, 19, 17, 19, 12, 4, 20, and 11 students. That makes up 33, 35, 32, 38, 25, 10, 37, and 22% around about. So we are significantly missing a large portion of students that are either A, not graduating, or B, not choosing Concord. And those numbers might not be entirely accurate. Those are only the numbers that I have available. So take it with a grain of salt, but I haven't seen anybody else produce these numbers. And based on your spreadsheets, I'd really like to see these numbers. I want to know where our students are going. And if the ones that are excelling and doing well and put themselves into positions to succeed at Concord are doing so great, but what about the other students? Because we've heard a lot about special ed and making sure those needs are met. But what about those students in the middle who aren't special ed, who might not be getting an education and are falling off the map? They are equally as important and likely just as vulnerable. And they should not be disregarded and they should be considered immensely. And then those are the students that worry me because I have 2 young boys that are very active. And once they get to high school, that's a very vulnerable age where we no longer have a vote on those school board members or those teachers or anything at that table. So having the opportunity to choose a high school that we hope may be in their best interest is just, it's critical to me. It's critical to a lot of parents. And Concord has a lot to offer, and I have said this every time, I have nothing against Concord. It might be the choice school that my child goes to. But right now where we're standing, Dover has an equal program plus FFA. Concord doesn't provide FFA. It doesn't support it. Co-Brown has FFA, and I know personally they're very supportive of 4-H, which are very passionate areas for me. Academic excellence, it's going to be what we put into it, but there's so much more to it, and I really want to just make sure you understand that when I'm sitting here talking about another school, it's because I see these numbers and I want to know where these students are going, because they're supposed to be at Concord.
Thanks. Any other?
Kevin Verville, Karen Road. So now you know how I feel, right? So I got 3 minutes. I got to get it all out really, really fast. And then you guys can take time in your meeting to paraphrase and mischaracterize the comments that I made earlier, and I have no rebuttal. So you can join the conversation in social media or on town, right? You can choose as individuals to participate. You don't, but you could. We can't. So you say you want to hear from the public. We listen, we digest, and we have a meager 3 minutes to communicate everything with the board. It's like speed dating. And when you're giving your comments, people are frowning, shaking their heads no, that is not the warm and fuzzy, right? I mean, the stoic, like, no look is cool, right? That's what you do, right? You just sit there politely and listen. But to shake your head and to make faces when somebody is giving you what they believe to be valuable information to help you, right? Because we all want a good outcome, right? That's what we want. That's what we're working at. I get it, right? One data point, one test. You can't put all the eggs in that basket. I've been begging this board for years. Give me the other data sets. What are the other data sets? The only data sets I can find publicly available, right, are the statewide testing. And the numbers that I've published are the numbers that the state has published for 11th grade. That's what we only test in 11th grade in high school, right? And I quote NECAP back 8 years ago when we used NECAP, and then I quote SBAC, Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, for 3 years that we used that. And now I quote the New Hampshire statewide assessment system, because that's the test we're currently using, right? I go digging through all that data. I get the disaggregated spreadsheet and I go through. Here's a game, right? They actually publish the numbers for a lot of different categories. English as a second language, certain minorities, by sex, by race, all this stuff. So I challenge you, right? Tease those numbers out and tell me if you hit equilibrium. If you're saying that Concord is doing poo-poo on the PSAT compared to Co-Brown because of those populations, then tease those numbers out and see if the Concord number inflates, right? Now, it'd be fair enough to look back at me and say, well, screw you. You want the information, you go do it. It's not my job. And I don't believe that they're minority kids, that they're English as a second language kids. I don't believe that those kids are dragging those test scores down that far. And I'm not going to use the words that a lot of people use to describe the type of talk when we talk about it like that. So there's my 3 minutes. You guys can take it, use it, don't use it, doesn't matter. People want school choice, give school choice, it's all.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay. I am now going to make a motion to go into non-public session pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 91-A:3, subsection 2, small letter K.
Second.
I'm sorry, we need to add B.
Oh, and B, sorry.
So moved.
Small letter K and small letter B. So moved. Nate?
Yes.
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 Thank you all for coming. You are welcome to stick around. It might be a long one.
Oh, I didn't write it down. Sorry. Yeah, Ellen seconded.
Break.
So you need to just stop the video?
Actually, well,
Cross out here.
When is it due? Okay, let me think about it. Okay, August 15th.